What's up YouTube? This is redbeardsgarage and today we're starting the Coleman CT200U trike build. Sorry I'm not working with a cameraman right now. My wife is gone to take something back for me, so we're gonna have to do this old school on a tripod. Now this is the jack shaft setup off of a Murray. This has a 3/4 inch shaft inside of it, 3/4 inch jack shaft. This was on Murray Explorers. It's got a nice really thick piece of steel on it, but what I'm interested in is this piece of pipe. Now the bearings are they're very close to being shot. Napa carries these bearings, but they do not have this little clip ring that holds them in, you know, so they won't go too deep in the pipe, if you can see that there. So I'm gonna have to find these bearings online to order, which is no problem. We can find somewheres, I'm sure, that sells these bearings. So what we're gonna do to make the swing arm for this bike is we're gonna cut this jack shaft pipe out, because I want to use this on the swing arm. Since I already have bearings that fit inside of it, I already have, I mean, this is 3/4 inch. You know, it isn't some weird metric. That means I can go down to a part store and get a 11 inch 3/4 inch bolt, 11 inch long, and it'll be perfect to bolt the swing arm. Only the swing arm will have bearings. The back of the bike will not. It'll be fixed plates on each side. So Well, I don't know if I had the plasma cutter all set up right, but it worked pretty good. I was cutting some decently thick stuff, and everything worked out fine. I ate up the tip on my plasma cutter. It must be a newbie problem, but need to find my good distance so I ain't touching the tip into the puddle. I'm guessing it's a lot like welding. You don't want to just shove it right down in there, but definitely going to buy some new tips for that plasma cutter and really perfect it. I like that thing quite a bit, though. It's going to make thin stuff, oh man, it's going to be so beautiful. It's hard to get a clean cut, especially cutting something like that. When I really got close to the sidewalls, I didn't have much room to play with, so it's expected for me to be a little crusty at first, but there it is, all cut rough. You know, be easy on me in the comments. You can see how thick that stuff is, and you know, it's decent. So I got that pipe cut down and put in there, and we tacked these plates in. One thing I did find out when I was measuring, I was taking my measurements for this jack shaft pipe. I was taking it off this, and I was looking, and this side I couldn't get them lined up. If you'll notice, I got a gap right here that I can almost, you know, put my finger. You can see right there, and right there is none. That's because this frame, either when Coleman built this mini bike, they welded in the engine plate crooked, or the frame's just crooked. This side of the frame is a quarter inch out more than this one. So I had to leave this gap, so I'm gonna have to fill that gap in. And when you got to fill a gap that big, that's a quarter inch gap with weld. You can find little scrap pieces of metal to put in there, and you tack them in place, and that'll help let you do a fat bead over that piece of metal and not have to do a half-inch wide or a quarter-inch wide weld. So now what I can do is I can fully weld these plates in all the way around on both sides, get it real good and mount in there. Once that cools down, then we can start building our swing arm assembly off of this. What we're going to do is set our rear section however far it needs to be. It's got a 62 sprocket. I don't think I'll ever go bigger than a 60 tooth. 60 should be about perfect, but that 60 tooth is going to set right beside the axle bearing. Then the axle bearing will go off to this. It's a little bit complicated. I'll just have to show you how to. It's hard to tell you, but the CVT sets about right here. The chain will split and go around this whole swing arm setup to the sprocket. It's going to be a pretty cool little setup. And then I can make shock mounts, going to the back of the trike up here, and should look pretty awesome. So we got the axle mounts welded to the swing arm pipe. This, of course, is not going to be the final design. This is going to be really weak. What I'll probably end up doing is putting a piece of sheet metal over top of this, and then I'm going to take, I don't know if I'll do angle iron or what, but I'll come from the pipe and go back down and weld to this. So it's like a 4-point to this, and then 2 mounting points there. And then, like I said, I can box all that in with sheet metal and make it tough. I wanted to do this with square 1-inch tubing, kind of like I built the 4-seater build out of, but I don't have enough. I'm completely out, actually, other than scrap pieces. So I'm going to get some more pieces of metal cut, and then, like I said, this will slide right in there, bolt in, and that'll give the suspension action that we're looking for. That should be plenty of room for this 62 sprocket. So yeah, I mean, it's going to actually sit right here, but you can see the space. That's with the axle hangers touching the axle, so it actually be about a ½ inch forward like that. So should work out great. We can get this put on there. We can put the axle on probably to see if all our measurements are right. Make sure everything's aligned good, and then we can go ahead and finish building this out, boxing this up. there's the swing arm. You know, the axle will ride back there, and when it hits bumps, it will swing. Pretty fancy pantsy. And then the only thing I don't know quite yet is where the shock mounts are going to be. I thought about doing a unishock to this right here, welding this more solid. This is just like barely, yeah, it's tacked on. I'd weld it on a little bit solid, and maybe put a brace down the center of it. I could put a unishock mount and do just like a four-wheeler would have, just one shock in the center, but I don't know yet if I want to do two or one. I want to do two 150cc shocks, but yeah. I know people are going to say it's not that far. You know, the swing arm isn't that long. So, sorry, someone pulled up, so we got interrupted. But I was going to make the swing arm a lot longer, but there's no need in it. I didn't want this thing to be crazy long. The seat's going to be right here, so that's perfectly over top of this swing arm mount. But look at the movement. That is so nice. So now we can mount the axle on it and find out. I'm going to have to make some shock tabs wherever I mount the shocks. I'm not sure yet. And that should be strong enough, I would think. You know, that shouldn't break. There's no way. But now we can mount the axle, find out how we're going to do the shocks, and then it's on to mounting the seat and whatnot. Oh, and by the way, all this metal, almost all of it, every bit of it actually, yeah, every bit of it, but of course the RBGs and the gussets was from the packaging for the drift tracks, the Coleman drift tracks. This was the angle iron and flat stock that was on that that packaging, and then this pipe, like I said earlier, was off of the Murray Explorer jack shaft assembly. So using old parts to make awesome stuff. So the way I made this, you have to put the axle flanges on the inside of this swing arm because the welds are on the opposite side and blocks you from being able to get the flanges seated all the way against the metal. So we get all this bolted up, and then we can find out, we can center our axle, and then also we can figure out our brake caliper mount. Look at that. So that's awesome. I need to get a longer 3/4 inch bolt. This one's a 10 inch. That's the only thing they had. That bolt was $8.50. I spent $15 for a bolt, a nut, and 2 washers at Co-op, and that was the biggest they had was 10 inch. So I'm gonna have to order an 11 inch. 11 would be perfect because that would allow me to get a nylon lock nut on this side. For now, I can turn a nylon lock nut around backwards so the nylon goes on first, and it should hold it on fine. Later on, we can add a grease element right here so we can grease this, and we're gonna put this tube inside on the bolt so the bearings have support from moving in on each other. So it's really close to being done now. We just need to make those shock mounts like I was saying, and then mount the gas tank in the seat, and then throw the motor back on it. I do think we're going to go with another engine on this because we have so much room for activities in the frame now. Make sure if you want these wheels and tires and you know, the axle and everything, Go Power Sports has all this. Those tires are really aggressive and I like them. I'm going to switch out the front tire on this mini bike with those tires as well. I really like them. They're 20 by 7 by 8s, so they are 1 inch bigger than the front, but they're pretty much the same size tire. I do like the wheels and everything better than the front, but this thing looks pretty awesome. I like it quite a bit. Like I said, I cut this off. You'll see that in the next video, and this is where the shock tab is going to mount right there, and then the seat will mount right there. Brad Hill made us a custom coffin gas tank. This was actually supposed to be for Lonnie's old bike back when he was going to do his old mini chopper and it was all crusty. This was made for it. This is an awesome gas tank. We're going to have to do some modifications where he made it to fit a motorcycle frame. We're going to cut the bottom out. I'll film that when we do that, and my brother's going to TIG a new bottom on. But thank you, Brad Hill. Make sure to contact Brad Hill on Facebook. And his picture is the 420 I took the governor off of with the diamond plate gas tank. So Brad Hill on Facebook will make you any kind of gas tank if you need something custom built. But yeah, make sure to go check these parts out on Go Power Sports if you want these tires. They'll be in the description. The bearings, The axle bearings, the axle, the brake, and everything will be in the description below. So next video, we'll get that brake mounted, we'll get the shock mounted, and then we should be able to mount the seat and everything, throw the engine back on, and be ripping on this thing. I'm real pumped about a three-wheeler, full suspension three-wheeler. I think it's going to ride awesome. And then I think we're going to borrow the 301 off the 301 mini bike. So stay tuned to the next video. Go check out Go Power Sports for all your mini bike and go-kart needs. And guys, thank you for supporting us. We just hit 50,000 subscribers. If you want to get on the Patreon wall, go on patreon.com. Check us out. We got a Patreon wall in the garage. You can get your name up for help supporting the channel. Check us out on our live streams. And thank you guys for watching. God bless, and we'll see you on the next one. Redbeard's Garage is powered by GoPowersports.com. Go Power Sports has a huge amount of awesome go-kart and mini bike parts, and when making your purchase, use the Redbeard discount code in the upper right-hand corner of your shopping cart to grab yourself a sweet deal. Hit that subscribe button and make sure the notification bell is on so you'll never miss another episode, and go check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest to stay up to date with the channel. Guys, always come back to Redbeard's Garage. I'm out.